We live. I ain't
Yeah, we
seen that
are.
timer. Okay, yeah, the timer coming out now. Like tricking me, man. Fooling me. Yeah, so welcome. We live, episode 75. I'm
Yeah.
trying to see how you say it in Spanish. 75?
75, yeah.
75. Yeah. Thanks, Karen. Thanks for the help. I needed that. But featuring Kemit-Amon Lewis, so this definitely gonna be a dope episode, I can't wait to definitely hear his story. I know Karen, you know him.
Yes, very well.
So we definitely gonna get into that. So Karen, how you doing? Good evening, good afternoon, good night to everybody.
Good evening. I am good. How are you?
Surviving. In this crazy wall, another day.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. Doing well. Yeah, doing well. It is cold out here in Illinois again, so shout out to everybody who's in the warm areas because here is not warm right now. Snowed yesterday. Hey, Arika. So yeah, hope it's warm out there in Cali because it's not here.
Cali had to be nice and warm over there.
Not all the time, but most times.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
Yeah, but surviving, taking it easy, So just how is it shoveling that snow?
So thankfully it didn't stick, wasn't a whole lot of it. It just came down and melted immediately, but it was pretty annoying to not be able to work out outside yesterday and have to bundle up like it was winter because it's technically not.
Yeah, that's true.
But surviving.
That's all you can do. All you can do is survive. Heal up, carry on, heal up. One love. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and get my shout outs out the way. This is always the toughest part. But now definitely, these are just a shout outs. If anybody new coming into the podcast, viewing it, we just like to shout out different business owners from the Virgin Islands doing their thing, So we always just want to spread love and just try and encourage everyone to support, try and big them up and keep everything going in the Virgin Islands. We got legends340.com. Legends340.com. Shout out to Dingo, shout out to Malika. Make sure you guys go check out the website. We got Savory Eats LLC based in Orlando, Sheena Fontaine. Definitely shout out to Sheena. We got meltingpotcookingclass.com. Big up to Andrea. Also follow on Instagram at Melting Pot Cooking Class. We got Siboney Caribbean Restaurant. Shout out to Mitra. We got Next Level Up Printing. Shout out to Chico. Make sure you guys check out his Facebook page. If you guys need anything printed, this is one of his shirts here. Crucian. This is a pretty dope shirt, by the way.
Yeah, I like that. Royal Crucian.
Yeah, Royal Crucian. Yeah, it's nice. So real nice, comfortable. Yeah, but if you guys got a chance, definitely check him out. We got Calypso Clothing LLC. Also, CalypsoClothing.com. Shout out to Fatty Newton. Shout out to Dwayne. Also condolences and prayers go out to the whole team. Fatty, Dwayne, the whole team. Calypso Clothing. Hope everything going well. So definitely prayers and condolences to you guys, man. One day everything will be nice, and the next thing is something crazy going on, So, but definitely, much prayers and love to you guys. We got Hungry Hearts Hustle Apparel.com. Also on Instagram, follow at Hungry Hearts Hustle. We got Island Time Grill.com. We got Coach T on 41 workout videos on Patreon. We got CaribbeanGirlsRock.com. Also follow on Facebook, Caribbean Girls Rock, and Instagram at official Caribbean Girls Rock IG. We got meltedbycroix.com. Follow on Facebook and Instagram as Melted by Croix. Definitely handmade soy wax. Definitely check that out, man. Some nice smelling stuff, man. Get my place smelling amazing. So make sure you guys go check it out. Honestly, we got Rico Canario. His website is www.lulu.com/R-Canario. I messed that up. .com/S Spotlight/R-Canario. I just messed that up big time. We got Midnight ENT. Follow on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok at The Real Midnight. Also on Facebook, Real Midnight ENT. Follow on Facebook, City of Refuge Worship Center. We got the Good Life Apparel. Big up to Nato. Carlos Hawkins with his AIM Credit Repair LLC. Follow our Facebook at Livewire Sports, the Caribbean ESPN. We got C Boogie Talks every Thursday, 8 p.m. C Boogie will be back May 6th, I want to say. So it will have to be the first Thursday in May. But if I'm correct, it's May 6th.
That sounds right. Yep, that's correct.
8 p.m. So definitely go on and support. C Boogie got his page up, so make sure you guys go on and follow the page, like it, follow. Definitely support Christopher Henry. He was on someone's podcast recently, the two females out in Connecticut. I forget the name, but definitely check out his page, and you guys could follow that as well too. We got the brand LLC. We got On the Edge Performance also. Condolences to the family of On the Edge Performance as well too. LLC. Definitely check them out as well too. Prayers and support goes to them as well. Also follow on YouTube and Facebook on the Edge Performance. We got on Instagram, Facebook at Dexter_Sinister_exclusive and apologetic. We got Apollo Legion. We got Paris Enterprise. Shout out to Dave. We got Larisha Star Brown and Stars Eats and Treats. Make sure you guys check that out. Check her out. She always got food sales. She always cater and everything. So if you're in the Orlando, Davenport, Kissimmee area, definitely check that out. We got Bubbles Promotion. We got Mentality of a Pro, Tegan's title of his new book. His website is www.kevincoachtshepard.com. We got Nona Enviro Group. Website is www.environona.com. Shout out to Wayne, shout out to Chanel, the whole team. We got Kenya Eugene. Her website is www.kenyaheartmusic.com. She also have merch there too as well. She got some shirts as well. She just put them up. So make sure you guys go check that out. We got Senator Genevieve Whitaker. Follow on Instagram at Senator Genevieve Whitaker and also on Twitter at Senator Whitaker. We got anonymouswestgirl.com. Check out the website. I struggle with that without pronouncing it anonymous for some reason.
You had it the first time. Anonymous.
I cannot pronounce that word good for some reason. I don't be like, it's all in my head. But definitely check out the website support. We got Right Way Service Station, the only locally owned service station, gas station in St. Croix. So definitely check that out. And we also got Thomas Bakery. They ship. So if you guys want to order, definitely call. I'm gonna post the number now and I'll have it up throughout the show. But definitely support. And talking about Thomas Baker, we had Kai Thomas on last episode. Great episode. Amazing. It was amazing to hear his story. The struggles and the adversities he faced in the beginning, and some of the sacrifices he made and a lot of the sacrifices his loved ones made for him, including his wife. So that was a dope episode. Talked a lot about owning a business and his perspective and his mindset on how he likes to approach running a business. He talked about moving from St. Croix to Atlanta, and it was a culture shock, and trying to football and some of the mentors that was in his life that gave him a lot of advice. So it was a dope interview, and it was good to hear his story.
Sounds good. I have to go back and catch up on a lot of episodes. I've been traveling and working and doing a whole bunch of stuff. So it takes me quite a while to get my hair done. So I'm saving episodes for when it's time to do my hair.
Hey, that's good. That's how you kill time.
Exactly. So I got a couple episodes to watch. I saw bits and pieces of Dwayne and Fatty's episode, but again, I gotta go back and watch all of them. So we'll be commenting late on all these videos. Oh, yeah. Everybody with the warm weather. Shout out to Chris. I saw it was cold out there in Maryland, but shout out to all the people in cold weather right now.
Yeah, definitely appreciate everybody tuning in. Definitely appreciate you guys tuning in, supporting Kemet and his his episode. And definitely shout out to Andre, C Boogie, big up, big up everybody tuning in. Ross B. Williams, much love. Kareem Smith, big bro, big up. But now we on to episode 75, featuring Mr. Lewis. And I'll go ahead and start, and Karen, you will take it from there and do the introduction like she always do, showing me up, So me and my broken, whatever you want to call it, ghetto hood introductions, but a few people told me about Kemet's story, and I didn't want to really get too much deep in it because we was gonna have him on the show, so I wanted to hear it from him himself. But I just can't wait. I know I took a marine biology class when I was in complex, and that was an interesting subject. We had to go out in nature. I think we went to what that place called North Side, going by Kemit, Salt River. Is it Salt River? Yeah. Salt River side. We traveled through there and stuff like that. I forget my teacher name in complex. I think, we went on a class trip, but it was interesting. So I just can't imagine, we had to go through to receive that degree and everything. Because if I'm not mistaken, that's a difficult subject.
Oh yeah, it's science.
Yeah, science. Yeah. So I got Kyron out to help me out today, brother. So anyway, so I just can't wait to definitely hear his story, and I appreciate him giving us the time, and the opportunity to definitely honor him and celebrate him as well too.
Absolutely. So Kemit is one of my friends, so I had to be here for this one. I had to make time to definitely be here to celebrate with him and to share in this episode. So Kemit is from WIM, from West, the best side, but whatever. Went to St. Patrick's School with me, was in my class. So again, friends from early 90s. Went to Central High School, attended Savannah State University, studied marine science, and has been a marine scientist for almost going on 20 years. It's been a minute, but he's been doing his thing. He's traveled the world. He's had amazing experiences. He has amazing hobbies. And he's been one of the most interesting people in my life, literally for 30-some years. So without further ado, Kemit-Amon Lewis, my really good friend, and welcome to the Elite Podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you, Karen.
That's amazing introduction.
Oh, what up?
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good to join you guys. Connellan from Florida, which it was from St. Croix, but such is life. But yeah, glad to join you guys and share as much as I can share.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
So how's things going? How's Florida besides hot?
Florida is hot. There's no snow. I didn't have to bundle up a pair of shorts and t-shirt and try to stay inside because it's hot.
Right.
But yeah, Florida is good, man. I just starting to work again finally. We had some really good conversations before COVID hit and it put everything on pause. So just started again with Perry Institute for Marine Science, and we do a lot of work, mostly in the Bahamas, and just getting excited about that stuff. But back in the marine conservation field again is fun, better than sitting down like looking at the walls.
Nice.
But yeah.
So how's your week been? Kemit?
The week's been good. A lot of just being on the computer doing work. Looking forward to, the prosthetic tools that I'm getting that will get me to dive again. I guess we'll get to that part of the story at one point in time. But yeah, we just started working on waterproof prosthetic tool. It should be exciting. Just like for those that aren't familiar with the prosthetic tools, the disadvantage of being an amputee is that you need specific tools for the different types of activities you want to do. So, they make tools for fishing and for this is like upper extremity, like your hands, fishing, playing pool, a number of different activities, kayaking and whatnot. And then with the legs, so I have a leg for walking, I have a leg for running it's more like a blade. I know you guys have seen folks in the Olympics running with the blades. Mine is modified so it goes into one of my shoes because I need it more for tennis than just running straight. But yeah, I have those two, and the next one that we're working on is one that can get wet and has a flex ankle that will allow me to walk on it and put on a pair of fins and dive with it also. So looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Karen, nice. I'll let you know. Both of y'all know we can go diving when I
need to get certified, but let's go. Yeah, let's do it. Life's an adventure, right?
If there was ever a reason to get certified, then
Great.
Real quick, Karen. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
Someone asks, is it Mr. Lewis or Dr. Lewis?
Mr. Lewis.
Oh, Mr. Lewis. Okay.
I appreciate the honorary PhD that that I was given, but not there yet. I've thought about it, but actually, there's. I did an interview with one of my. She's an alum from Savannah State, also working on her an advanced degree, and we talked about conservation and my role in the field over the last, over a decade or so, and there is a distinction between, and there's a place in the world for all of the above, but you traditionally in the sciences you have the group that's hyper focused on academia and are interested in teaching and on the collegiate level, and then on the flip side you have kind of where I fit in more. Let's do the research and use like the research right now to advance the conservation field. And so whether it was coral reef restoration or sea turtle conservation or fishery conservation, you guys might be familiar with Reef Responsible, but that really took off on St. Croix. It was a sustainable seafood initiative that we developed a couple of years ago. And it's, that's been what I focused on. It's like, how can we study and learn and adapt as we manage for, all the pressures that we as human beings have put on marine resources, on Earth, on St. Croix, on this, this small planet that we have. A lot of people think that, it's big, everything is forever and everything is infinite, but that's really not the case. And we're starting to see it more and more now. And so that's kind of where I am. I did receive my bachelor from Savannah State University. I got my Master of Science in Marine Science right after that. And I've been working in the conservation field ever since.
So before we get to college and thereafter, take us back to St. Croix a little bit. What was it like growing up on St. Croix, attending elementary school on up?
So elementary school was okay, mostly because, there was like Karen, Michelle, my cousin Melvin Hodge, Todd James. Like we had a Nadia, Janelle. We had a tight crew in St. Patrick's. And for me, I had started there from age 3 in preschool and went all the way through 8th grade. And despite all the other stuff that comes along with going to a parochial school, we made it, we made it a place to be because of the people that were around us. And this, I'll talk about high school too, because I didn't join most of them that went on to St. Joseph.
You left us. It's cool though.
I got wise. I got wise in my adolescence and jumped ship. But there's a reason why I went to Central, and I'll share that also. But we had, between like, St. Jared's Hall, the Goatfoot Woman, the random days where teachers would sneak us out of school and take us to the beach. Remember that, Karen?
Those are sanctioned trips.
Chucky was up at Wendy's in the bathroom hiding and scaring kids. That was a life. And, just thinking about how much we did more outdoors and whatnot. When I look at my niece and nephew today and they're like inside glued to their iPad, I think I'm fortunate for where I was raised and how I was raised because of how much that played a role in making me who I am today, right? Another podcast, another topic, I talked about the importance of knowing your history and owning how blessed we are to come from a place and be descendants of people like Bodo and Queen Mary, and how it was a conversation about race, and I was like, well, there's a certain confidence that you have when you know your history, you own your history as a Crucian, that like you can't tell me anything that's gonna faze me, because I'm I'm a Crucian, point blank, period. And yeah, we have our own issues. We had a long discussion last evening on our Power Talks podcast, and the word that kept coming up with was culture. And I've been struggling with the idea of how much ignorance we try to pass off and coin it that it's culture, because a lot of stuff is like either stuff that was never our culture to begin with, or things that worked in 1848 but it's 2021 now, and we need to I think as a community we really need to take a step back and identify what are the cultural things that really work for us and hold on to them, and just start stripping the negative that that hold us back as a community and as a people. But yeah, I got away from St. Patrick's, but yeah, those are good times. I can't even talk about the games we used to play, because there might be kids watching.
Right, don't want to incriminate anybody. I'm not confident to anything. I didn't do it. I probably wasn't there.
No, Karen. Karen, guilty.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna talk about F and G. But yeah, we had some good times in St. Patrick's, as with anybody growing up on St. Croix, especially on the west end of St. Croix. There's just something magical about Freedom City, Frederick said. But moving on to Central, I decided to go to Central for one main reason. At the time, my mom graduated from St. Joseph, Maria Thomas. She's a Thomas from the west end, and she really wanted me to go to St. Joe's, but Central High had a scuba club and a marine science program. And it was the only school on the island that had a Good Hope. They didn't have one. Country Day didn't have one. Of course, St. Joseph didn't have one. no shade, Karen.
Just a little bit.
But yeah, that was my easy decision to choose Central High. Remember, you're probably thinking about either Miss Gibbs or Miss Lewis. Those are the teachers at Complex that did a lot of work Lewis with the marine science program.
Miss Lewis, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we had, Marine Science 1 was in the classroom. We did a lot of lab work. Marine Science 2 was out in the field. Cane Bay was our classroom. The Department of Education owned, there's a building not too far from Cane Bay as you're going east. And so we could store our tanks and whatever gear we needed to do, whatever research we needed there at Cane Bay. And, I remember at the time, Dan Odell was our teacher at Central High, and he actually was an amputee also. He had lost his, most of his digits on both hands. I think it was a frostbite incident back in the day, but he amazed the hell out of me. He could do everything, from, the classroom stuff to anything that you needed to do with scuba gear, tanks. He could rescue students. He just did all of the above, and there wasn't like a, woe is me kind of, I need help with this mentality. And I think I've definitely taken a lot from that in my current situation and making things work. But yeah, Central High was a place to be between 1996 and 2000. Not only was there an amazing marine science program, but our academic and science quiz bowls were, we were pretty good in both. Football team beat up on the Barracudas nonstop. No shade.
Just throw shade on everybody.
Volleyball, softball, baseball.
No, man. No, Kevin. Stop. You was good until football.
I was on the tennis team, so I know how it worked. I remember I remember playing at Complex with y'all. I mean, we didn't have a tennis court at Central, but I don't know how you guys end up with this tennis court with like gravel by the net. Got to be Kimberly Moorhead. Gravel by the net, and I remember I was playing Complex. Somebody from the Complex, and I ran up to get this drop shot, and I slipped in a gravel. Lost my house. And he hit the ball back. I touched the net or something. Something happened. He won the point. But he asked his coach if he won the point before he asked me if I was all right. And that was it.
Oh wow.
I ended up winning the match because you don't do that kinds of things to tennis is a gentleman's sport. We have
have rules that you have to follow. Yeah.
There are ways that even if you don't mean it, you ask, if I hit somebody with an overhead, I ask you if you're okay first, and then say, okay, I won the point.
That's true.
But yeah, Central did a lot for me too. Mr. Woods, if you weren't at Central and you didn't have Mr. Woods for chemistry, you might not understand it. But this guy, we had a top 20. The top 25 in our class was we were all beasts, and we were all pushing each other. Jada Thomas, Kimberly Moorhead, Angel Escobar. There's a long list. Maureen Shaw. We pushed each other. So we all had chemistry 1, chemistry 2 together. We all had physics together. We had a lot of biology classes, a lot of the pre-calc, trigonometry, all of those classes together. But all of us, we were pushing each other. We were pushing each other so much that in my last semester at Central, I jumped from 5 in our class to number 3 when I graduated. That's how crazy we were competitive against each other. But it was a good sense of competition, like pushing each other to do well. But I left Central in 2000. Santi was in our group too. George Smitten was in our group. A lot of dope people. But yeah, I left Central in 2000, went up to Savannah State, and somehow I got stuck in the dorm with the athletes. And there were a bunch of us that couldn't get chemistry in any other section except for on Fridays it was either 5:30 to 9 or 5 to 9:30, something like that. So I'm at this HBCU, right? Yeah, and shout out to Savannah State, way better than you want me to
Don't you start. Don't you start.
I
just keep going now. Just keep going now. Don't go so. Just keep going now.
I ain't gonna say nah. Yeah, I ain't gonna say Norfolk State, but I ended up with this this real dope university. I don't know if you can see that there. You see that, Karen? Yeah.
Nobody cares.
We're gonna talk about how y'all beat us at homecoming the 1 year I went back, but
we should talk about that.
But yeah, Fridays, I believe the 5th. Fridays, 5 to 9:30, I believe is when the section was. So at the HBCU, everybody's out partying on the weekend, and we're stuck in this chemistry class. Luckily for me, I went to Central and I had Mr. Woods. I didn't have to study a day in my life. Easiest 4.0 for the semester ever.
Wow.
Nice.
And a lot of people, I say that almost every time I talk about like where I am and how I got here, because a lot of people would want you to believe that the public schools don't produce. But when I tell you that, the Schusters, I had both of them, Mr. Fabio, like we had a crew back then that really taught us and prepared us to go on and excel. And so, there is that. Shout out to all the Caribs watching tonight. Barras and what y'all were Saints? Y'all were Saints, Karen?
Wow! Don't even act like you don't know. You know who we were.
Yeah, that's a diss.
That's what it was, right?
We
I've
are
never
the
seen
Saints, yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Praise the Lord. Amen. Miss Walcott, shout out to Miss Walcott. We miss her horribly. I was an a FBLA baby. My mom was an FBLA advisor, Future Business Leaders of America. So I didn't spend a lot of time with Miss Walcott at Central, but as a child, I got to spend a whole ton of time with her. And I have a ton of second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh moms out there, and she was definitely one of them, and still is definitely one of them. But yeah, Central was dope. Savannah State was dope. I don't know.
Did you
just
have
jump
any
in
other?
there?
Did you have any other colleges you had in mind besides Savannah State?
Yeah, so I applied to a bunch. I got into all of them that I applied for. Applied to. Hampton was one. I didn't apply to Norfolk for some reason. I don't know why. But University of Miami, University of Florida, and I got presidential scholarships from both.
Wow.
But even with those scholarships, it was still like like
oh yeah,
$20,000 a year for an undergraduate degree. And at that point I was advised that if you're gonna spend money on college, you spend it on grad school. You don't spend money on undergrad. Miss Edney, shout out to her too. Who is I'm gonna mess up the new name, so I'm gonna just say shout out to Miss Edney. Miss Watley is her new name, Mrs. Watley. Miss Acosta, Mr. Brian. Kent Moorhead was our principal at Central. He had the Omegas that created this group for young men called Noitakud, which is education spelled backwards. And they spent a lot of time just teaching us the ropes, everything from how to excel in school to how to take a young woman out on a first date. So we learn. Yeah, man. I'm sure St. Joe's didn't have any of that, but currently still.
This is why I'm.
This is why I'm here for St. Joe's.
This is what we come to do with my Wednesday night.
Go to the Saints.
No,
right?
No, you're still that's what you didn't hear me. I just said you're still a big success story from the St. Joseph Saints.
Oh Lord, this is what I have to put up with, y'all. This is our relationship. It's fine. We love each other.
This is funny.
So, big question.
Yeah.
I know you were into marine science and you did your thing at Savannah State, but did you play any sports while you were there?
Yeah, I played tennis for Savannah State for 2 years. The university this is why we lost to y'all. We just moved from Division 2 to Division 1. Well, we might have gone back to Division 2 when we
I think
this was it was a homecoming game, so it was after. But yeah, I think they tried to go to Division 1 and then it didn't work out so well.
So no, there were one still because they transitioned back in like 2015-ish, maybe, or 16.
Yeah, it would have been either.
Yes,
it would have been either 16 or 18. Yeah, I think it was 8. No, we won in 18, so it might have been 16.
Right.
It was 16 or 17.
So I think they transitioned the year after that, maybe because I remember when I was working in South Carolina, I went down for a game because one of my Norfolk State athletes was coaching, and it was their last D1 game. So 20 teens sometime, the transition back.
Yeah.
But that sounds like an excuse for losing, though.
Yeah, they were trying to salvage what they had. It's crazy because they attempted to go to Division 1 in hopes that they would get more funds from NCAA, but it completely backfired. They had a baseball team that was out of this world at Savannah State that was like, championship after championship after championship, and they moved up to Division 1 and it was like nothing. Basketball, these guys had, a rough time. Football, I mean, I think they went. You know how sometimes you talk about teams going undefeated. I think we went defeated every single game. It was embarrassing. Yeah, winless. But yeah, tennis was cool. We had it was interesting because we had a football coach coaching tennis, Coach Payne. Shout out to Coach Payne.
Wow. How was that?
You know, so one of his famous one-liners was "There's no I in tennis," and we were like, "Bro." It stuff like one baby one, like he'd write it on the board, and we'd be like, you want us to win baby win. Like, yeah, it was interesting, but I think it was the football coach that owned a racket, and so he got to coach tennis. So I actually spent most of my time as hitting partners for the women team because they actually used to win. Another team in D2 that used to actually do well. And we had this group from, we had ladies on the team from Trinidad and Tobago, from the Bahamas, from Turks and Caicos, and then a couple of walk-ons. But the talent on the team were all Caribbean. So we were a tight group there in Savannah State also. We had people like Jalian come up after, and Asim Shillingford and Wayne Aline, he's on the watching tonight too. We had a good crew in Savannah State, but yeah, I spent most of the time just hitting against the ladies, and then teaching the men that walked on how to play. That was just picking up the racket for the first time in their life. Taught them how to play, and I got some exposure playing D1 tennis, and it was crazy because we would switch between D1 and D2, and the rules for D1 and D2 tennis are different. Starting with like the serve, if you serve and you hit a let in D1, you play the point. If you hit a let in D2 and you serve, it might be French, but you hit a let in D2, you replay the serve.
Okay, wait. So break it down for people who are not playing tennis. Break that down. Define everything, so people who aren't familiar with tennis would know.
You start you start each point with a serve, right? And so if I serve the ball to you, and it hits the net and it drops in the box that it's supposed to go in for the serve to be good, you have to play it. And if you don't play it, I win the point. In D2, if I do the same thing, I serve, it hits the net, it drops in, I have to serve again and start the point. You don't have to run for it. So, yeah, I think I got aced a couple times forgetting that I was playing D1, and and then, yeah, it was interesting. But we had, I mean, the whole idea of the whole aspect of being on a collegiate team and traveling with the team, and going on the road, and we had one of our teammates loved cows. She was from Trinidad, and every time we were in backcountry somewhere and she saw cows up the window, everybody had to wake up and look at cows. But yeah, it was a good 2 years. The second year I actually had some help on the men's team. Joshua Williams, he's from the Bahamas. He played, and he was really good. His sister played on the team before, Sophia. And so we had a 1 and a 2 and a good number 1 doubles. But that was it for tennis. On the tennis team, you have to win more games than just those 3. Yeah. In college, it's a team sport, unlike the pros, where it's very individual, unless it's doubles.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah,
so what years did you play tennis? Was it your freshman, sophomore, junior?
Sophomore, junior year.
Sophomore, okay.
Yeah, the first year I was there, they didn't have the team. I kept asking about it because I played for Central. I was probably the last team for Central, because I was, I think, the only person on the team. back in 2000, 99, 2000. But yeah, I asked him about it at Savannah State, and eventually they were moving up to Division One, so they added that and golf and bowling and a bunch of other sports.
And then why didn't you play your senior year?
I'm trying to remember if we even had a men's team this senior year. I don't think we did. I think that's when the university started to realize that, hey, this idea of moving up to the Division One was probably set us up big time. But such is life.
So
yep, Savannah State, Tigers.
After graduating from Savannah State, where was your next transition?
Mm-hmm. So after I got my bachelor's in 2004, I was gonna go back home to St. Croix and dive and explore the ocean or the Caribbean Sea, and just didn't have big plans for what I was gonna do after I'd done all of my summer internships with the Division of Fish and Wildlife at DPNR, and so I knew all the folks there. I was able to do my senior research project on Sandy Point with the leatherback sea turtles, and so got my feet wet in the field very early on. I did a lot of work with commercial fishers, and they all knew me. And I was just gonna go home to St. Croix and chill. And who would then be my graduate advisor, Dr. Dion Hoskins, who's from Savannah originally. A sister, chill, cool lady, rocks dreads too. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go home and just hang out." As I should mention that I also, when I left the marine science program, with my undergraduate degree, I was their #1 student from the marine science program.
Nice.
And I say that because they were, what's the politically correct way of saying this? They were non-minorities that felt like they should have been the #1 student when all was said and done at the end of the year, at the end of my graduating year. But that wasn't the case. So again, shout out to Central High and to St. Croix for sending somebody ready to take hold of the marine science program at Savannah State. My undergraduate advisor was Dr. Gilligan, so it actually made classwork a whole lot of fun. Reaching out to him and this isn't the Gilligan from Gilligan Island, but he shared the name and he was pretty cool. He's non-minority, but the work that he did to build this marine science program for minorities is mind-blowing. When you think of, what all exists there at this small HBCU, it was the first HBCU for the state of Georgia, public school, and it's impressive. Anyway, I was gonna go home, and she said, "Well, if you want to work on your master's, you can do that." And I jumped on that and went through the process, took the GRE. Don't want to have to do that again. It's like the MCAT or any of the other standardized tests. The next level of the SAT when you want to go into graduate school.
Jeez.
Yes. Adult.
I remember I showed up there with my calculator and everything, and I was like, "Nope, no calculator. You did all your math by hand." And I was like, "Okay." Anyway, I did what I needed to do to get into grad school, and lucked out in that they actually allowed me to do all of my research in the VI also. And so for my master's, I took all the courses in Savannah. We had fisheries, oceanography. We had intro to marine science, like the next level, marine mammalogy. I took as an audit. The fundamental difference between marine biology and marine science is that the marine science degree is more encompassing, so it looks at the oceanography, the marine chemistry, marine geology, all of those things, all of those other disciplines, and not just focus on biology and the life forms. A lot of chemical and physical processes are important also to study. But then I got to, swim after turtles and catch them for my my graduate degree, and I oversimplified it, but we were free diving sometimes 40 to 50 feet to catch these turtles, put them on a boat, measure them, weigh them, look for injuries, give them tags, and we'll let them back into the ocean. Why that work was important for me, and why I decided to do it for grad school, was that a lot of projects are focused on the beaches. So you guys hear about Sandy Point, you hear about Jack and Isaac's Bay Sea Turtle Project. There's some work done at Cheney Bay. People are starting to look at Manchineel, which everybody calls Cape Penny. And then Dr. Coles, who was my mentor at the time at Fish and Wildlife, had done a lot of work all of the Frederiksted Beach. He would go with an ATV and just check out all the beaches and document where there were turtle nests. And that's cool. That's I don't want to call it easy, but it's easier because you just wait for the females to come onto the beach. When she goes into her trance, when she starts to lay her eggs, she's oblivious to everything around her. And so you can do a lot of the data collection. You can insert, we inject a tag into the turtle. We, like an earring would affix a flipper tag. And then she goes back out to sea, and we start to collect all this important data on the population and how they're doing in terms of numbers. Are they going up? Are they going down? I think everybody knows that sea turtles are threatened, either vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered. It's how the internationally they're assessed. But only females come onto the beach. Only adult nesting females come onto the beach. So you miss all of the males of the populations of sea turtles around the islands. You miss all the juveniles, male and female. And so that's why for grad school, I decided to do an in-water project. We swim after them, we catch them, we put them in a boat, and process them. A lot of cool experiences.
Wow.
A lot of turtles that we missed. We saw some that had tags on them, and we really wanted to catch them because that means they were tagged in another project before mine. But the turtles that have been tagged before, that have dealt with people before, they want nothing to do with us, and they go. And I had some fins that were pretty fast, but still, a lot of turtles would escape me. I did have one. Jerk isn't the word that I want to use, but I'll call him a jerk. His hawksbill was on the bottom at the runway near UVI in St. Thomas at the airport. And this was the deepest that I'd gone. It was right around 50 feet. I had my dive watch would show me the depth whenever I'd go down and come back up. And it's going down at maybe 2 feet out. I was like, man, I need to turn back for air. But I was also like, if I go up, he or she will probably swim off, and then I'll miss it. So I decided to keep going. I kept going. I caught the turtle. The whole way back up, I'm like, don't suck in water. So I have my tongue blocking the circle, and I'm like, yeah, I need to get to the surface. Usually the big turtles will swim, and so you just take their face or position themselves so their face is at the surface, and they will help swim you up. This turtle said, "Nah." He just like, I was like, "Come on, bro." So got him up to the boat. I was kicking and kicking. Finally got him up to the boat. Put him on the boat. He takes a shit all over the boat. And then my hand was itching, so I was like, man, what is this? So I look at my hand, and I look at the turtle. He had fire coral growing on the back of his shell.
Oh,
and so when I picked him up, the fire coral cut into my hand, and then I had some of the stinging cells from the fire coral in there. But we got him. we're able to process him, do all the good stuff, and then let him go. The cool part about my masters was that I invited people from the community to come out to do the work with us, and so we'd have groups of 20 people easy at UVA and St. Thomas swimming out with us. Everybody from the 3 or 4 year old that just loves to be in the water. I would always just point at them and say, the turtle's too big to catch, even if it was a turtle that I could catch with one hand. To people that wouldn't come out in the ocean with us. We had one experience that, there are a couple ways that I know that, I'm in the right field doing the right thing. This one lady brought her dad, who was, I think he was in his 70s, and he was excited as hell, and he was just like in it with us. And every time we had a turtle that we processed and we were ready to walk it down back to the ocean, he was right there behind all of us. And she turned to me towards the end. She was a little teary-eyed, and I was all confused. And she said to me she wanted to thank me for doing this work because her dad actually suffers from Alzheimer's, and he isn't going to remember any of this after today. But the joy that he has right now, makes it worth it. And so, nice. There are a couple of experiences like that throughout the years that I've felt like, because I'll be honest, and it wasn't back then. It was like when Black Lives Matter movement became a big thing. I struggle with the fact that, I was working with sea turtles or corals, and people need help. People need to be advocated for, and in the same way that we try to advocate for the marine environment, the struggle that we had, or that I had internally in trying to explain to people why my work was important, and they're in an indirect way to people, because I do this is how people will benefit. I struggle with that at a point in time, but there are these instances where I got encouraged to do even more, to be even more strategic with what I do and how I did it and who were involved, and was a big part of why the community stayed a part of all of the work that I did, even post grad school. So yeah, did that instead of going to the beach and hanging out. Shout out to Dorch Beach, because that's where it all started for me as a kid. But yeah, I decided to go to grad school, and it worked out. I kicked myself, but then at the same time, you wouldn't be where you're at now if you'd veered off the road. But I was offered an internship to do work in Antarctica after undergrad, and I turned that down to go to grad school. And sometimes I wonder, what it would have been like had I done it. But at the same time, I'm fortunate for where I am now today. So
it would have been cold. That's what it would have been.
Yeah. Yeah. Dry suits, and yeah.
That's crazy.
Right. Yeah. Is that your dog down there sleeping so hard?
That's my dog snoring in the background. Sorry.
It's hilarious.
I just tried to nudge him so he moves, and he flipped over and then it's snoring again.
Yeah, he's dreaming.
It's fine.
Dream about turtles.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this about the turtles real quick. So when you see a turtle that's tagged, you guys can't tag it. Once a turtle is tagged, it's tagged. No one else can tag it to do research.
It depends if it's so depending on most researchers get a series of tags, and so I think mine in grad school was TTH. So we knew that if anybody caught a tag in the BI that was TTH, that was probably Kemits. Sometimes the flip tags will fall off, and so a researcher might put on a second tag. But if they're tagged in both from first, then there's a likelihood that you wouldn't put additional tags on it.
Okay.
he would just try to find who originally tagged the turtle and try to get information from them on whether it was size or where the turtle was caught. Fun fact, I did my graduate work in 2005. In 2015, we were at Buck Island on St. Thomas. For those of you listening from St. Croix, if you weren't aware, there is a second Buck Island in St. Thomas, and I'm reminded to always share my work at the Sea Turtle conference in Greece one year, and I was approached by someone not from the VI and told that I needed to correct my poster because I have Buck Island on St. Thomas and not on St. Croix. So I had to politely explain that there are two Buck Islands in the VI, and probably more when you consider the VI also. But we took there was a donor trip schedule for the company that I worked for, the Nature Conservancy, and we were on St. Thomas. We were gonna go from Flat Key, which is just off of the runway to the southwest, little Flat Key, beautiful dive site. I've been there when working at UVI collecting. We would collect fish, like Dr. Fish, at night. They kind of like rest or sleep, and they're super easy to catch. But we had like humpback whales singing off the runway the entire night. We could hear them. Wow. But we were going from Flat Key. Sorry, I have all these stories that meander, but I'll try to do good about getting back on track. Out to Great St. James. On the way out, it was really rough, so we decided to just stop at Buck Island and St. Thomas instead. And before we got to the mooring, the guests saw turtles in the water and immediately jumped in, not to try to catch or harass them, but just to be swimming with turtles. We had to toss him his mask and his fins so that he could actually see. He's so excited. He's like, gone. But while we were out, I saw a tag on this turtle and dove down. I could see the tag number. I got excited because it was a TTH tag turtle. I had my camera. I always have a camera with me, so I went down, took the picture of the tag so that I didn't forget the number when I got home. And it was a turtle that we had tagged in John Burroughs Bay in 2005. We found again in 2015 at Buck Island, and so it's only one turtle, but one of the conclusions that I had, or the hypothesis that came out of my research, was that the more protected bays house more juvenile turtles that didn't have to maneuver to not get hit by boats and all those issues. And as they grew up, then they would explore out, because we did work at Burroughs Bay, at Buck Island, at Water Bay on St. Thomas, which is where the bay where Coral World, the south side of Coral World and whatnot, is located. And that's St. John. We did work around St. Croix, so we did all three islands. And that's one of the things that we found, like the bigger turtles were out in less protected bays, and the very nicely protected bays like John Burroughs Bay had smaller turtles for the most part. So that was pretty cool. Some little cross that guy.
Cool, man.
Nice. Definitely interesting.
Yeah, 10 years later, man. That's a long time. That's wow.
Tag was still on.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So once you finished the master's and you got into it, what was that experience? What did you do? Who did you work for? Tell us about your travels and your conservation efforts.
Cool. So I left Savannah State in winter of 2006 with my master's. I defended and was back home. I originally wanted to work for the Department of Land and Natural Resources Coastal Zone Management Program, but you all know how it is. trying to go back home and live your best life. And the ancient people that don't even have, I remember my interview like it was yesterday, like not one question about any one credential that I had. Like I took coastal zone management in the city of Savannah. Then my teacher was an Army Corps of engineer, and I knew something about coastal zone management when I came back to St. Croix. Nothing was asked except for what salary I was offered. And it was suggested that I shouldn't make the same as the non-Crucian that was in the position before. And I took that little hit. I went to St. Thomas and I worked for the University of the Virgin Islands. It was my first job back home for a brief period of time. Love St. Thomas to visit, but yeah, it was rough. And the work that I did, I spent a lot of time out in the community, and so I don't know if you guys are familiar with VEERS, but the university has this research station on the far east side of St. John. Like you pass Coral Bay and you continue to wrap around the south side. And some days I would leave UVI in St. Thomas on the west end, drive to Red Hook, get on the car barge, ferry, go over to St. John, drive from Cruz Bay, pass Coral Bay to VEERS, and then have to make that drive back. True traffic, true to cruise ship passengers, and all that stuff, and it wasn't for me. So I decided to come back to St. Croix. Folks at Coastal Zone Management or at DPNR finally got their stuff together, and they saw value, I guess, in and it's there were always pay cuts, to go home and work for the government. You will always take a pay cut to work for the government. But I did 2 years with them, and then there was the William and Punch project, and between the I can't call them ill-informed because they knew what they were doing, the developers. They just were, I guess, used to packaging BS. I don't know if it's safe for me to say that on a podcast, but they were used to packaging that and just giving it to the people of the VI and assuming that nobody's gonna look through I guess that doesn't work as a good analogy, but because I don't think anybody wants to pick through BS. But I guess they had been used to for so many years, like just getting stuff passed because nobody really understood what what to ask for, what to look for. So I remember my particular issue with William and Punch is that they had data for this flushing channel that they were going to create by building this island, and it was modeled off of shallow water waves, but they didn't have shallow water waves, so they modeled that off of deep water waves and from Puerto Rico because they didn't have any from St. Croix. And it's like, you can't do this. So we went through the whole thing about statistics and regression lines and submitting the actual data that matches that you collected from the site. And they did that, and they were way off, but it was a mess. And then I sat there and watched the project go through anyway, and then watched them appeal all of the special conditions that we put on the project, because it was gonna, save the economy of St. Croix, which when you look at the financial feasibility study that they created, or they had created for them, it showed that a lot of the stuff that they wanted to do, especially this island, would actually make them lose money. But they just wanted it because of the aesthetics of, you create this, remote island on the west end of St. Croix where you can build a hotel, and kind of like a hotel on the Key, you just moving that to the west end. And it's like a combination of frustration with that and the commission at the time allowing the developers to vent, aka say whatever they wanted to us, the staff. And the opportunity at the Nature Conservancy opening that, I was like, all right, I'll see you guys on the flip side. And I don't regret it at all. I jumped on as the Coral Conservation Manager for the Nature Conservancy in the Virgin Islands. And within a few years, we had gotten a grant from NOAA through President Obama's stimulus package to build the first coral nurseries in the USVI. And it was a consortium of projects throughout the Florida and Florida Keys, so from Nova Southeastern up here in Fort Lauderdale, University of Miami's, all throughout the Keys to Key West, and then Dry Tortugas in Puerto Rico and in the Virgin Islands. And the VI, we received, it was something like $1.7 million over 4 years to do this work. And so, buy the boats that you need, hire people to do the work, buy all of the material that you need to create these nurseries and whatnot. And we started with that very small. One of the first things I did was I flew to Florida and we had a joint meeting with all of the partners. I learned all about what worked in Florida, what didn't work. A lot of simple tricks here and there to improve effectiveness and efficiency and save money. Because that's the whole idea, right? Like all these projects is when someone donates to it or gives to it or grants to it, it's all about return on investment. And they want to know that if I'm giving you money, if I'm a hedge funder in New York and I'm giving you money to save the world, quote unquote, I want to know that you're not wasting my money, that, we're actually making progress. Not just because of, my money, but also, Earth really needs us to make progress on, all the conservation work that's ongoing now. But yeah, I started on St. Croix and St. Thomas, and quickly, because of, what we had done differently in the VI, so instead of just growing corals and then tossing them back out onto reefs that where corals had died in the first place, we started to just look at the sites, it's some of it is common sense, but some of it is merging that common sense with science. So what are the issues at the site right now, and if we put corals back onto the site, are they going to die again, or do they have a chance to survive? And that's what I think a lot of the other projects weren't considering. The idea was just grow corals, go hundreds of thousands of corals and put them back onto the reef. So and some of the things that we did a little bit differently in the Virgin Islands, we were invited to train our colleagues in the Bahamas and how to get the work started there. And from there, it kind of just blew up. Like everyone started asking us or reaching out to us to come and help. So we were able to do the Bahamas. Really good time there, including having to work there for my 30th birthday and really wanting to be in South Africa diving with great whites. But because I had to work, actually ended up diving with about 30 reef sharks, just circling around us the entire time, which was pretty dope. Grenada then picked up and they wanted to do work also. And so we helped to establish nurseries in Grenada and teach them everything that we learned about, what to consider, how to not reinvent the wheel, but see some success. The British Virgin Islands came up and we helped them there. We, through a number of presentations, helped folks in the DR. I was able to do some work and sighting work in Haiti, on the northern coast of Haiti. We were able to help Cuba set up their first coral nurseries and train a bunch of Cuban marine scientists on how and what our techniques are and how to get things off the ground there. And so quickly I'd gone from this just focus on the VI to the Caribbean regional lead for reef restoration for the NGO that I worked for. And it's a part of a bigger team. We had somebody that focused on sustainable fisheries. We had somebody that focused on marine protected areas and sustainable tourism, on just our advancements in GIS, geographic information systems, and starting to use drones to do a lot of the mapping work that that we've done. Now, a lot of people think about drones and they think about festival and pictures and boat parade and pictures, but we actually have used drones in a number of different ways to collect data, whether it's the work that you can do with infrared software to assess how much chlorophyll is in a mangrove patch, for example, or creating these drones that actually are little boats, and they you can drive them around and take pictures of the reef underwater. Of course, they work on flat days, but yeah, we started doing a lot of work in the Caribbean. The Bahamas was really picking up, and they were doing a lot of work there. Grenada started doing work on the windward side of the island, where there's a beach telescope, is the name of the area in Grenville, that erodes naturally because the reef has almost disappeared. So we created this structure and working with the community that would break the wave energy, and you have more gentle waves coming into shore, and it wouldn't erode as much. And then probably the highlight was we've done some stuff in Curacao, also in Guam, American Samoa, but we were also invited to set up China's first coral nurseries a couple of years ago, and that was an amazing experience for a number of different reasons. One, we were on the island of Sanya, in just south of mainland China, which has bougainvilleas, it has palm trees, mangoes. We were eating dragon fruit for breakfast. I mean, it was like this tropical, just like snowbirds come to St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, and the rest of the Caribbean in the winter. Snowbirds in China come to Sanya to be on the beach and hang out. And there were legit places in China where the reefs reminded me of places I'd been on in the Great Barrier Reef and in the Solomon Islands, where there's just, and this was before the bleaching event that impacted the Great Barrier Reef a couple of years ago. But there are areas where it's like everywhere you look, you see, live coral, 100% coral coverage in a number of places. Not as many fish, and the sharks, they moved when they saw us. But there were areas in China that were mind blown when you stop to think of everything that you hear in the media about this country is that there's nothing but smog, and in some places that is the case, but where we were in the island of Sanya, again, it was a really cool experience, and I got to meet Pikachu while I was there. He's hanging out on the beach. So.
Oh Lord, I can't with you. So you mentioned swimming with the sharks for your 30th birthday. Was that the dive where you took the pictures that you hadn't? Because he won't say it, but I'll say it. Kemit is also a photographer artist who does art shows and has his works in galleries and all this stuff. And he has this one really amazing picture. So that picture behind him he probably took of the pyramids in Egypt, because that's what he does. But I remember, I think it was in one of the gallery showings, it was a picture of a shark, and it was head on or it was a side view of the shark. And it was just amazing because you were really close to it, and it was, kind of weird. So was that the dive that you took those pictures?
This was done, that was after this one. So that shot that you were talking of is straight on. That's a good shot to remember, because the straight on, and there were actually 3 or 4 sharks. I think there were 4 in immediate shot, and then there was one silhouette in the background, doing his own thing, but not focused on me. But that picture actually won me a photography contest. It won at the International Coral Symposium in Hawaii a number of years ago. It won Best Animal Portrait was the category, because it legit was the portrait of this shark.
A shark in your face.
And it won Best in Show. Yeah.
Nice.
But they were cool. They were just cruising by, hanging out.
So how did you feel in that moment taking that picture? It would be nice if you could find it and show it to the people, because it's really intense. If you can't find it right now, post it in the group afterwards, but it is an amazing picture.
All right, we'll do that.
How did you feel taking it?
I'm like, I've been diving since high school, so, it's like, they're friends. I'm not food, so there's no gallery information right now. The last show that I did was stuff like the one that you see behind me. End of last year at Cafe Christina on St. Croix, and we did an auction with a number of prints like the one that you see behind me. From my trip in 2018, I was able to do it. It had been so my name is Kemit-Amon. My dad named me Kemit-Amon. And Kemet is the original name of Egypt. It means black for the people. A lot of people construe it and they think it's the soil. So Dad and I talked about what conversations to have and what conversations not to have in Egypt, because right now Black Egyptians rarely exist. Like the Nubians are almost not found in Cairo and Giza, where the pyramids are, and Cairo, the capital. But the photo of the shark was in the Bahamas, and I will try to find it.
Let's post it in the group after.
I
don't want to mess with the conversation.
Yeah, I'll post it in the group after. Because also the Washington Post had used it for some article that they did on sharks, and how friendly sharks are.
Are they though? Are they?
Like the rows of teeth that they have in their mouth.
Right, but they're friendly.
Yeah, but yeah, Egypt was cool. Like I said, it had been on my bucket list from as long as I knew what my name meant. Amon was one of the gods. At one point in time, he was a god over all the other gods in Egyptian history. And so I had wanted to for a number of years. So it was weird. I was home talking to my friend Frank Robinson. You guys might know him, formerly from what used to be Best Craft Cocktail Lounge. And, he's one of the main hosts of Paul Talks that we do every Tuesday. But it was 2018. I was like, Frank, where's the party this year for New Year's Eve? And there wasn't a party for New Year's Eve. So like, all right, well, I'm gonna go online and see what American Airlines says about traveling to Egypt. And it was just like on a whim. I was like, all right, let's do this. And so I was there from Christmas, just before Christmas, through just after New Year's. And I got to see, I landed in Cairo, got to see the museum there, where, a lot of the mummies that they've found over the decades of archaeological research are now housed in a museum. I got to see the pyramids in Giza. I stayed, the hotel was legit right outside of it, and so I could sit on the patio and watch the light show that they do every night on the pyramids. From there, I got to go to Luxor, another set of temples. The hot air balloon ride. Nicole Kanageta is a photographer and a good friend of mine, and she recommended it. I had to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. I was like, Nicole, is it worth it? And she was like, yeah. It's like, all right, I trust you. But was able to do that. From Luxor, I got to go down to Aswan, where the Abu Simbel temples are. And those are unique because they were, at one point in time when they were messing with dams and whatnot on the Nile, and the level of the Nile started to rise, they actually had to move these two temples brick by brick up onto higher ground. And they've managed to not mess it up, which is pretty dope. And then from Aswan, I was able to fly to Sharm el Sheikh, which is a little dive spot on the peninsula, and got to dive the Red Sea on, I think it was New Year's Eve. Yeah, it's a pretty cool
That's
experience.
pretty cool. Yeah.
And so definitely recommend it to anyone that has not been. Smaller groups make sense. Dad did call freaking out. There was a bus bombing in Giza while I was there. I was down in Luxor when this happened in Giza, but I think it was like either a Chinese or a Japanese tourist bus. But that's like your take home message is,
Luxor.
Do a small group, one or two people, or go by yourself. But yeah.
Either the Chinese. Sounds awesome, though. I mean, minus the bus bombing, but just the experience of visiting all those different places and then getting to dive. That was awesome.
Yeah,
that's a place that's on my bucket list.
Yeah, for sure, do it as soon as you have the opportunity after this COVID thing. Like, I'm when I look back at 2019, I'm happy that I did all that I did leading up to 2019, and then excited about all that I'm gonna do with the rest of this, whatever this is. But definitely put Egypt on your list. The only place that I didn't go to was Alexandria, because that was marketed as a Roman Greco Egypt, and I was like, no, that's all right. I'll stay south. But legit got like the biggest compliment was, somebody called me Nubian and saying that I look like their brother, and like maybe it was just because he wanted me to buy a little something, but at the same time, there's Egypt and all of North Africa, because I did Morocco before Egypt. It's like completely Arabic now, and it's for the most part anyway. And so they pick out Black people when they actually see them, and that was a highlight for me, being called that. There was I thought she was Arabic. She ended up being from London, but it's interesting. She did the whole 9 yards, and you would swear, but then in having conversations, she was on the tour. I think it was a hot air balloon tour with me, and you learn stuff about people. But yeah, people are from all over the world go to see it, and I think it's important to actually be there yourself. Like, the pictures and the video are nice, but they don't do it justice, and there's no way in a picture to get a good appreciation for scale and for what we as Black people were able to accomplish way before there were scaffolding, like metal scaffolding, and that's one of the interesting things about work around the pyramids. There was some work being done at the Step Pyramid in Saqqara, one of the first pyramids, but it was all like old school wooden scaffolding that they use. Like, because of the area and sensitivities to the area, they don't use any crazy equipment. But without the first engineers, the first astronomers, the first doctors, Egypt was a pretty special place in terms of how civilization for us as Black people began, the civilization of the world began. And it's not highlighted as much. We don't talk about Egypt and everything that happened there as nearly as much as people talk about Jesus. And then even when we talk about Jesus, it's the images that the media want to share is like white guy with blonde hair, and that definitely wasn't the case. But yeah, I think Egypt really needs it needs more of a pedestal, more people, like most of the tourists there, again, Asian tourists, tourists from Western Europe, but there wasn't a lot of us there, and you see groups here and there if you follow like the Black travel pages on Facebook and whatnot, but not nearly enough of us that are Black have been there and experienced what it is there. I remember, we stopped to eat one place, and dude brought out hibiscus drink for me. And I was like, I forgot what the name. There's a different name that they call it. But hibiscus, sorrel, it's like all the things. And here I am in Egypt drinking sorrel for the Christmas season, something that I would have been doing at St. Croix anyway. So there's some connections there that are like, interesting. We need to check it out more, but definitely get it done if it's on your bucket list, because I just have the flexibility to just take your time and explore, and either jump on the train or do a plane ride to these different places and just see, because it's amazing. Like when you stand next to the pyramid and like you're looking up, and this is just the first level of brick work, and like you don't even begin to reach the top of it. Like it's insane. And then I had the opportunity to go into one of the pyramids and
nice,
and check it out. Same thing with the Valley of the Kings. I was able to go into a number of the tombs, and I'd forgotten that they mentioned at the museum that King Tut's remains were back in his original tomb, and that was actually one of the most spiritual and grounding experiences for me on that trip, because of course, you have to pay an addition for all of these things, and a number of people on the trip that I end up on, because it just grouped a bunch of people together that didn't know each other. It was a solo trip for me, so I was just like, all right, I'll go. But it's just like myself and one other person, and of course there's a guard in there, because it's like all temperature control and whatnot, but it's like a glass or a plexiglass like coffin that he's in now. And just being able to experience some of those things, like when you talk about the difference between religion and spirituality, and organized religion, I should say, and spirituality, there's a huge difference. I've always believed that there's a huge difference, and there's something very spiritual about St. Croix. Although I'm from the West End, especially about Point Udall and that entire area. And there was something very spiritual about, being in and around the Valley of the Kings and a number of other places in Egypt. So yeah, that's a long advertisement for them, but check it out.
Nice. So take us into 2019 and your travels in that year, and then your experience through the year.
So 2019, it was a cool year. I had just gotten back from Egypt. There were a couple of trips that I did. I was working at this point in time with the St. Croix Foundation as the local disaster recovery manager. So a lot of work trying to get the resources that the NGOs on the ground that had been doing the work in the aftermath of the hurricanes needed to do work. We talk about all these government agencies that were pretty much they all had issues, whether it was staffing issues to money disappearing to money being sent back to the federal government. There were all these issues, and it's sad to say that we can't get beyond that. I'm gonna hire you because you fried a fish for my campaign, and just hire people that are qualified and know what they're doing. And we do that, and not just for like on the commissioner level, but even as we elect people. I think that's one of the things one of the many things that I would like to see change about St. Croix and the VI is that our elected officials should be viewed as somebody applying for a job also, and that's why platform speeches are created. That's why debates are important. But we've gotten so far away from that, and not just in the VI, in the US also. That's why Captain Crazy was president for 4 years not too long ago. But we really need to double down on making sure, because it's like I think about it this way, like as a marine scientist, like I have to have my ducks in order to get any job that I apply for. My CV or my resume has to say that I'm qualified. My experience, the way that I present myself, the way that I talk in my interview, it all has to be legit for me to get my job. I don't make decisions on things that will affect your lives every day. Yet we elect people that make those decisions. And for many of them, there's like zero experience in it. And because I still love home and still want to stay connected with St. Croix, I'll talk about dude that was in the White House before Biden. But that's a prime example. It's like zero like he's not only has the power to launch war, and yes, there are a lot of people behind the scenes like doing actual work, but look at where we are because of just like not only being prepared to qualify, but just being a crap person. And I think that's one of the things that we really need to focus on in the VI is like how can we do better with the elected officials and make it more about credentials and I'm not, when I say credential, sometimes people think I'm talking about like degrees, but it's not that. It's just experience and knowledge, subject area knowledge, so that we know that the decision that you're going to make that's going to affect all of our lives is in the right hands. Like DRS, WAPA, education. I can go down a long list of agencies that have never worked for the people of the VI. But I digress. So yeah, it was an interesting year. I remember I just gotten back from Washington, D.C. I was at the Capitol with Congresswoman Plaskett. She does these VI Advocacy Day on the Hill where a number of Virgin Islanders travel up to Washington, D.C. and we're able to advocate for the Virgin Islands and getting us included in some of the bills that are on each senator's dockets and whatnot. And like I came home, I felt a little weird. I told my best friend I was going to the acute medical care. She's like, all right. I went to dinner with my dad the night before. I had duck. I love duck. And felt fine. I went to sleep. I woke up and I felt like I had a fever, but it wasn't like man, I feel like I'm starting to get the flu or whatever. It was enough that I was like, all right, let me go to the acute medical care. I went to the first one, was closed. I ended up at Pleasant, Golden Rock, right? And they looked at my vitals and they were like, yeah, no, you we're gonna send you to Juan Louis. You're not gonna drive yourself. Your friend isn't gonna take you. We're calling the ambulance and they're gonna take you over to Juan Louis. So they did that. I remember the first 5 minutes of that. And then the next thing I remember is waking up here in Broward. So what I missed was that they determined that I had gone into septic shock. It's likely that it started with an infection from a dive site. So I may have gotten cut at some point in time. Don't know what the water body was. I have my speculations, but neither here nor there. It wasn't Egypt because I was 6 months out, so it had to be something around Thomas and St. John. But because I didn't know about it, it developed into, because I didn't know about it, it wasn't treated, it developed into sepsis. And so it essentially started to shut down all of my organs. And apparently Juan Louis doesn't have a continuous dialysis machine, so they couldn't treat me there. What I've learned is that some of the doctors in the ER may have given up and told my friends to say their final goodbyes. And a nurse friend, Nurse Kinara, she just stepped in and she was like, this isn't going to work. She brought in Dr. Khan from Pleasant, had her on the line, and they were just trying to make things work for me to try to get me off of St. Croix. Puerto Rico was going through their thing with the governor. At that time, it was like some messy stuff between what he had, the comments that he made about people after the deceased people after hurricanes, Irma, Maria, and whatnot. And so the hospital was like, yeah, no, we're struggling to hold on here. Jackson Memorial in Miami said no. They didn't think I was going to make the flight alive. Broward Health, I think initially said no because of the same reason, because they couldn't get my vitals stable enough to make the flight. In the air ambulance, it's not like they wheel it, the gurney, they wheel it in, you're there, and there's not much room for anything else. So if you code on the flight, they can't bring you back. They can't do CPR or anything to try to bring you back. And so that's what they were afraid of. But they finally got me stable enough to fly out, and they got me to Broward Health. And the unfortunate consequence of everything that went on was that, unable to get me stable enough to fly and to protect my organs, the doctors administered vasopressors. And what these pressors do is that they concentrate oxygen to the internal organs, but they do that by stripping oxygen from your limbs. So I woke up after a 2-week coma at Broward Health, and I learned that because of the damage that the pressors had done to my limbs, I would lose my right hand and foot and my left fingers and toes. And I think we ended up doing all of the amputations within a week. They were like 2 days apart. But I did the hands one day, and then 2 days later I went in and did the right leg. 2 days later I went in and did the left toes. And it's been an interesting process since. When I look back on and where I was in 2019 when I got discharged from the hospital, big shout out to Dr. Hamilton and her crew at Broward Health, because she's Jamaican, and I'm not going to say that's why she did how much she did, but she really looked out. One of the first things they said when I woke up from the coma was that, we're going to get you back in the water, we're going to get you back in the tennis court and back in the dance studio. So I taught dance and choreographed for Caribbean Dance School for a number of years also. And, I had this crazy network of friends that were charismatic. Lean, she was the friend that came with me to the hospital initially, and flew up and was there with me when I woke up. Christiana Williams, Jendai, Nadia, like we had this crew that was just trying to make sure that I had everything that I needed, I was comfortable and whatnot. But when I think back on how things were when I first got discharged, and a lot of people were, maybe freaking out because they weren't sure what life would look like after the amputations and whatnot. But, fast forward, I haven't used my electric wheelchair since February 2020. I got discharged in September. I got my first leg in January. I've been on my own again since May-ish 2020. I got my truck shipped up last time I went home. Do everything for myself. I don't need assistance. And we're making progress. I'm making progress, and started working again. Happy to be back in my field and doing cool things. I live not too far from Tanisha Billy Roca's sister, Teresa, who makes the best guava tarts ever. And she's up here in Coral Springs. So, shout out to all the guava tart fans.
Here we go with that.
Are you about
coconut.
You about to say something about coconut or pineapple?
Team coconut.
You like right?
I eat all of them equally. I love all of them equally. So
yeah. You could. I mean, no shame in loving guava. You know. but yeah, life goes on. You know, and you know, a lot of people talk about you know, encouragement, or we ain't gonna even say that live on the air. We talk about you know, encouragement or inspiration or whatever the case may be. But actually, I take a lot of energy from a lot of people on St. Croix and around the world. Like, I can't tell you how many people either were flying through. This is when it was actually okay to like visit people, would stop and check in or send love or send like well wishes from whether it was St. Croix or, you know, Australia, New Zealand, like just all over the place. And you know, it's good. It's always good to see that, you know, there's a lot of people that are in a capitalistic society that we live in, where so many people are so focused on self. It's cool to see, you know, instances where people just show love and show you that they're there. So, Sheldon, I think it was from St. Patrick's Days that I knew I was gonna study marine science. We didn't do summer camps. I did PAL 1 year. I think everybody has done PAL 1 year.
Right.
Fox, yep.
Outside of that, my dad would just take us to Dorch Beach every day during the summer. Like, I don't know if Karen remembers it, but I used to, I would leave St. Patrick's in June, one complexion, show up in September, like blending into the t-shirt that I have on right now, peeling just because every single day we were there from 9 to 5. He would leave us like lunchtime, go to Yucca, buy some popcorn and pate, some drinks, come back.
Yeah.
I think this was back in the day where brown soda was a thing. Come back, and we'd spend the rest of the day hanging on Dorch Beach. And it was like the first, I remember we were out once, Dad used to just swim out and we all used to try to catch him. Of course, I'm one of those kids that were thrown into the ocean. I was like, if you want to live, you can swim back. So we would swim out, and somebody on the beach yell out, "Shark!" We're like, "Oh no!" And then so we look back, and there was a swimmer. So it's like, she thought the swimmer was a shark. And we're like, okay, whatever. And she yelled, "Shark!" again. And it ended up being a dolphin. So, you know. It was. I think that was the moment when I was like, "Yeah, okay, this could be the field for me," and that was a big part of why I went. You know, a lot of people thought that with my mom's involvement with Future Business Leaders of America, that I would have studied business, but I think it was from then that I was like, "Yeah, marine science is gonna be what I focus on."
Nice. I actually had a similar incident where I thought a dolphin was a shark. It was last February at Sandy Point, and you know, I hiked from, I guess, the pool to Sandy Point, got to where I was going to stop, and I sat down in the sand, and I was like, all right, you know, I'm gonna get in the water, hang out here, and I was by myself, and then I saw this like dark spot just going, and I was like, oh, today's the day that I die because I'm gonna get eaten by a shark. At no point did it dawn on me that I just didn't have to get in the water, because I walked that far and I was getting in the water, but I paid attention. It was a dolphin, and I obviously made it out alive.
That's good.
Yeah, so right, thanks. There's a second part to Sheldon's question. Yeah.
Yeah, so wasn't intimately involved in the sunscreen ban, but interestingly enough, one of my colleagues at NOAA, she's very high up in NOAA's coral reef conservation program. We have a running joke every time we see each other because it was at the one of the international coral symposium. I think this one was in Hawaii, and we joked about NOAA establishing a federal ban on sunscreen and the sunscreens that contain the harmful chemicals, the oxybenzone and whatnot. And it was at a point in time where, like, it was an interesting conversation. People were just starting to talk about it. At the same time, to be honest, people were also talking about, well, maybe we can help Caribbean reefs by bringing coral species from the Pacific and planting them in the Caribbean. And like, for a number of reasons, like, no, just, stop. But they're completely different oceans. Like, the Pacific Ocean is many, many years older than the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic is a very young ocean in terms of geologic time frame and whatnot. But and that was the problem with the lionfish. Somebody decided that they wanted to see lionfish on the Caribbean and Atlantic side, and now here we are. Side note, they do taste good, so feel free to continue to eat them. I've had them. I think Whole Foods at one point in time started carrying them up here in Florida. But Mexico, I've had lionfish ceviche. Curacao, I had a whole deep fried lionfish with the spine salon. It was very pretty and very tasty. They had it had to have been a local pound seasoning that they used because it tasted like it came out of my mom's kitchen.
Nice.
And the Bahamas, they had done this real ritzy restaurant had done lionfish skewers with the spines. And that was pretty dope also. And so yeah, we do them a lot, and Frank cooked up a bunch for one of the Reef Responsible events that we did. He's like fried lionfish bites in coconut oil. I think it was served on top of tostones or something crazy, but it was like ridiculously good. But yeah, again, sorry, I have all these crazy side stories, but
no, that's good.
Yeah, it makes life interesting.
But no, it wasn't intimately involved in the sunscreen ban and VI, but there were a lot of colleagues, and I did have a number of conversations about what would work. We initially shared information on how Hawaii was successful in doing their ban. They were the first ones that had done it, and I think the more we do things like that, learn from other places what works and what maybe don't work, and try to explore how we can make progress in the VI, the better off we're going to be. So.
Nice. So what is your current role at the organization that you're with now?
So it's at this moment, right now, there's a lot of my focus right now is on admin and the permitting side of things for all of the research that we're doing. And we hope to transition into focus on sustainable seafood work again, maybe some philanthropy work. I'm really excited about that, but can grow into more hands-on conservation work once the permitting stuff is complete. I was on the tennis court a few months back. It was the first day back, trying out the new prosthetic arm that they made that would allow the tennis racket to connect straight into it.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I haven't been on the tennis court again since. However, the pickleball court is it's closer to where I live now. Like, I can literally walk over to the pickleball court, and I've been doing that quite a bit. There's less running involved. I can pretty much stand up and at the baseline or go into the net. And we actually won the last game that we played. My partner is from Guyana, so we share a lot of kicks on like jokes. And my comment to him after we won the last game that we played was that I think I went on a run and had won for our team the last like 6 or 7 points that we needed in a row to get to 11. So yeah, been making that work to get some steps in and working on hand-eye coordination so I can get back on the tennis court. I'm hoping that I'll be back on the tennis court soon. The struggle is trying to find somebody patient to play with and not paying for a pro to hit with. Because last time I did that was on my way to Morocco, and pros here in Florida will charge you $100 an hour to hit with them on a tennis court, US.
Oh, yeah.
And bad man ain't about that life.
Oh. Oh Lord.
That's a lot. That's a lot per hour.
Yeah, that's a lot, period. So how has the transition into using your prosthetics been? Like, what is the experience? What things did you have to go through mentally and physically to get where you are now?
So the leg was easy. The walking leg is super easy. But the first company that I got, it was just like a metal bar, and they were the new company that I'm with was able to put in a device between the socket, which is what the amputation was done just below my calf on my right leg, which is where most of my tattoos were also, side note. But, but they put in this device that like shock absorption, and it allows for like torque and tension and whatnot. And so like I'm usually on this like pretty much all day. Probably not supposed to be, but but I gotta live. But the leg's been easy. Right now, we went through some growing pains with the prosthetic company that I was with at first, and the insurance company who said that hands weren't a medical necessity. But we were able to, for now, get the Axon hook approved, and so it looks something like this, and it's connected to the sensors are connected to my hand. So when I open and close,
Nice.
like as if you were to flex your hand, it would open like your wrist. So if you were to like flex your wrist, it would open, and if you were to bring your wrist down, it'll close.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so the unique thing about this also is that it is quick disconnect, and so it pops right off, but then it goes right back on, and then you're good to go again. Charge it every night, and I'm good. I learned that the hard way. So I was actually, when I was on Sequoia, I was at brunch with some of my peeps at Salt. It's amazing, by the way, out in Salt River, and the battery died, and so yeah, there's that. But what's exciting is that I hooked up with this group, a program. It's Vocational Rehab, and their goal is to get individuals with disabilities back to work, and then ensure that they have all the tools that they need to be successful at work. And so we're working on, I don't know if you guys watch The Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I don't. I'm sorry.
I
don't have Disney Plus. Yeah, I heard about it, but I haven't watched it.
So Winter Soldier had a prosthetic hand made for him out of vibranium from the Wakandans, and so I should get. It's not going to be made of vibranium, but I will have a robotic hand soon. We're just invoicing all of that stuff and sending it into vocational rehab so that we can start working on that. So we're gonna do
Awesome.
a full setup, hand on the right side. It's even more cool because it has like the wrist flexes a little bit. It has a number of different grips that you can set. So um, so one of the grips that they show is like the rock band grip. So I'm hoping that can be made into the VI till I die gesture and have that as
Nice.
one of my grips instead. But you know the fine motor skill, picking up a key or keychain, you know, the grip to write, the fist, the you know, flex hand, in a relaxed state. There are a number of different things that you can set um, in the software that will allow you to change your grip and again live your best life. It's connected to a mobile app, and so you know, I'll be able to change stuff on the app and function a little bit easier. The hook has been like amazing, and you know, Halloween was kind of canceled. So I wasn't the parrot that I planned on being last year for Halloween,
Oh
but
boy.
it's you know, I can write, I can sign,
Nice.
pick stuff up, I can pinch, and such. um, and so this has been cool, and the my electric technology is pretty cool in that you know, they're just nothing is surgically implanted. The sensor just sit on my skin and I'm able to control it. We're gonna develop um, similar technology for the left side, and then, like I said, make that leg for diving. So making progress on those. I do have a prosthetic limb made for the left side now. That gives me fingers. Again, they're ratcheting, so they can ratchet close into a fist or open back up. I don't use it as much. I've, you know, over the last year, it's been so used to um, just working without it. And most importantly, the the touchpads and the fingertips are supposed to work on smart devices, but they don't. So
No.
Jeez.
if you can access your phone or your iPad, then you know, no. But the newer ones that I get will be able to do all of that. I do use the one on the left for when I'm on the pickleball court because I can like catch the ball and serve and whatnot a lot easier. So yeah, but
Nice.
it's been, I don't know. I guess like you, I know that everyone's story isn't the same when it comes to amputations and you know getting prosthetic tools and whatnot. I've been in a number of support groups with the, you know, prior to COVID with the company that I was with at first, and the stories from, you know, the guy in his teenage years was tried to jump from one train to the next and fell and woke up and you know both of his legs were gone, and he's,
It's tough.
you know, when you see him walk in, like if he walked in with her along past, like you wouldn't even know. He drives like nothing. Like I'm back in my truck. I didn't have to modify my truck. A lot of people ask me that, but I didn't need to. Dr. Hamilton, going back to her, um, was very determined to not remove all of on the left side and keep what she could keep in terms of the what was left of my thumb and whatnot. And so I'm able to do a lot, even without a prosthetic tool on that side. Um, but I think everybody's case is unique, especially when it comes to all of this. I think the energy and the life that I lived before definitely helped me in that. Um, I never believed in being basic or doing simple things. I always had, it's always a drive to explore, to see, to live life. And so I think that was a big part of why I am where I am today, because of, not just my own drive, but the network that I have, my family, my brother, sister-in-law, mom, dad was here, stepmom, cousins, just like everybody, just there's nothing but love coming to me. And so, there's the one side of you can't let yourself down, and then the other, you can't let everybody else that's rooting for you down. And so that's been driving me. In terms of fish farming, I know that there was a long time ago, they attempted to do shrimp farming on the North Shore at St. Croix, and that didn't work out for whatever reason. I don't know if you guys have seen Seaspiracy on Netflix. It's worth to check it out. It can be very depressing, and the caveat is that watch it with an open mind and realization that a lot of the fishing practices that exist in the Pacific and around Japan and some of those countries do not exist in St. Croix. The pros and cons to the fish farming facilities in terms of the waste that's produced and how to get rid of it and where it goes. A number of farms, because of the biomass, the sheer numbers of organisms that they have in close proximity, have issues with spread of disease, mutations, etc. But I think there are ways to do it in a manner that will not cause harm, and if that's the case, then I would be for it. Libya has had, although it's tilapia and you can't get me to eat tilapia, they've had some success with their fish farming work on tilapia, and then the whole aquaponics and hydroponics side of all of that. But I think if someone approached the VI with ideas about fish farming, that there are a number of things that need to be considered, especially when it comes to like how are you going to source food for a large scale fish farm? How do you manage the waste, and how do you protect you're growing food for people to eat. You want to make sure that there are no diseases, etc., that are an ongoing issue with that. It could be a revenue generator, but I think, like I said, it just has to be thought through. A lot of times, in the VI, I know we're all familiar with build it and then don't save money for maintenance. But yeah, I think with any work that's proposed for the VI, some solid strategic planning around how to make it work in a sustainable manner is important. I think one of the things that we need to do also is continue to look at our Caribbean brothers and sisters. I think a lot of times we look at Florida as the closest example of, or the closest place in the U.S. by proximity to try to develop what we should do in the VI, and it's proven time and time again that doesn't work. And if we looked at the other Caribbean islands, Barbados, with their energy and enthusiasm around climate change, remediation around clean energy, I think we could do some cool things with sustainable seafood, with sustainable agriculture, and even sustainable tourism, because that's something that we don't think of. We're in the benefit on St. Croix from how our tourism differs from St. Thomas and a number of the other countries in the Caribbean, where like St. Croix, we're gonna do our stuff for us, and you're welcome to come and enjoy it, but this is what it is. And I think that if we could capitalize on that and then look at what other Caribbean islands are doing with regards to that small scale, the cultural tourism, where you come and be a part of whether it's Stanley chipping down the streets, or Dine VI or Sink Our Food and Wine Experience or what with the Ag Fair, come and be a part of what we have. And yeah, we could do a lot of things at home, but I think if we got the right leaders in place, I was talking about the difference between politicians and leaders. If we got the right leaders in place, we probably start to see some really cool things pop off at home.
That's true.
Definitely agree with that. What you got, Muba?
No, I'm waiting because
that was 2 hours already.
I have some questions, so I wanted to make sure, Karen, you wasn't gonna ask something.
No, I'm good. I guess the last thing that I'll say in terms of what we've talked about so far, I remember when our classmate Michelle told me, you were in the hospital and explained everything that was going on. I was absolutely heartbroken, but I know the fighter that you are, and just to see how you've rebounded and how you've healed and how you've really just gone forward and, taken this thing in and are living your life. I know the life that you lived before. And when I heard the news, that was like the first thing I thought about. I was like, oh my God, how is he going to continue to live his life? Because I know the fervor that Kemet lives with, and I know the intensity and the joy for life that he had. And I guess it was my bad for thinking that you wouldn't fight through it. But, knowing you and seeing you make this progress has been absolutely, amazing. And I absolutely love you. And I think you're great. And I'm loving the progress that you're making.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, I love you too.
Oh, he does. He really does.
Yeah, we go way back. Yeah.
Yes.
And we were neighbors too. So
yeah. Yeah. So like literally, I mean, literally friends forever. Embarrassing pictures and all.
Yeah, we won't. We won't. Yeah.
We're not showing those. We don't do that here.
I was gonna say I'll look it up and post it.
Post the other picture.
Yeah, we won't do that.
Yeah. So do me a favor.
Just thank God for glow up, because back in the day.
I ain't going to know you. Make sure you post the shark picture that we talked about, and then I think you went to Shanghai when you were in China, right? Or you went to a temple and you were standing outside, and I think you tagged me in that picture. So post that one too. It was somewhere. No, you don't, Carrie-Ann. Stop. No. No. So one of those pictures from China, I think it was China, where it was the pink flowers, and I think you were at a temple in front of the steps doing something. Post that one too. Yeah. All right. Those were nice. So Mumba, all you.
I got a few quick hitters for you, Kevin. First one is have you ever did you have any dangerous encounters while diving in the ocean with any animals?
No, that turtle was kind of crappy. The one with the fire coral.
Yeah.
In actuality, I'm more cautious around barracudas and around sharks, because a lot of times when we did field work, we'd get to where we wanted to be, either anchor or moor, or tie up to the mooring. And when we jump in the water, we'd see this big barracuda hanging under our boat. We'd go about, do our thing. Within our dives for the shallow sites could be an hour long. And halfway through the dive, we would look back and the barracuda's there, just there. And then at the end of the dive, we get back to the boat and the same barracuda is just still there. And so that's anytime I saw barracuda, if I had my chain out of, if my chain had fallen out or for whatever reason, I made sure that was tucked in. I made sure not to do any quick movements with my mask, because the light reflecting off of it can sometimes look like a mirror depending on what's going on. I made sure that my underwater camera, which has usually have a clear acrylic housing for it, I made sure that was tucked in, and so I didn't give the barracudas anything to want to lunge at. So yeah, barracudas they can be idiots underwater.
That's
It wasn't super dangerous because the dive crew knew about it. But in Solomon Islands, that trip, so the shark picture that won me that photo contest, the prize was a 7-day liveaboard in the Solomon Islands. Solomon Islands is just northeast of Australia, next to Papua New Guinea, and it's, I forget how many. It has to be over 100 islands in this archipelago of islands. And so on the 7-day liveaboard, we just go to different places. And our first dive is 7 o'clock in the morning. Our last dive is 7 o'clock at night. We do 5 dives a day for 7 days.
Jeez.
And this one site was called Devil's Highway. Like all of the dive sites were unique. There were sites where, we'd pull up to a site. They used a GPS marker. Because you couldn't see anything but ocean. And then when you got down, the reef started, it was a seamount, so the reef started at 50 feet down. And then there are 2 holes, you dive into those, and then you pop out at like 120 feet, and then you just slowly make your way back up to the top. There's sharks cruising by, and the first time that I was in a ball of jacks, I know you guys see that on Animal Planet or all the time with this school of jacks just circling, and being in the middle of that was a pretty unique experience. But this site called Devil's Highway, because it's where 3 different currents meet.
Oh wow!
And they drop you on the shallow end, and it takes you. The currents are pretty strong. We're easily going 25, 30 miles per hour underwater. And they tell you when you start to, so it's like on the seamount also, when you start to descend, they gave you gloves and find something to hold on to, some dead reef, and just hold on. And we're just going to sit here. And so that was probably the sketchiest site. They were like, you don't want to keep going because we are going to have to end the dive. It's going to suck for everyone. The good thing is that most people on this ship were advanced divers. I had my rescue. I was a scientific diver, and so I could help people if I needed. But everybody else on the ship were advanced divers, and we get there and we're all holding on. Bubbles are growing all over the place. They're kind of like a whirlpool vibe in certain areas and whatnot. And there's all this stuff going on with these currents, and all of a sudden these mantas just pop up and they're gliding through the currents like it's nothing. And they glide over the top of your head, and then they come back around, and they're just feeding because the currents are bringing all of this food together, these plants and whatnot, and they're just doing their thing. And at the end, they show us where to navigate to get out and not be swept out to sea. But yeah, that was kind of sketchy, but it was a pretty cool dive. The other one there in Solomon Islands is there was a volcano, an underwater volcano that was rumbling, so we could hear it and feel it. We could actually feel it on our chest. It was probably a mile off from us, but we could hear and feel it underwater. That was a little unnerving also, but it was all cool.
Part of the job, I guess. That's interesting and crazy. Glad you're okay.
Yeah. We actually tease that a lot of I didn't want to call him Karen because I've already given enough smack on this alternate, but a lot of Karens up here will approach me and they ask, "Were you in the military?" And it's like, no. And either they're like, okay, whatever, and they walk off, or they engage in conversation about what actually happened.
Right.
And I was at the vet with dude T'Challa, by the way. I was at the vet with T'Challa, and someone asked me, and I was like, I'm gonna have to start saying that it was a shark attack. And then I thought about it some more, and it's maybe I'll have to say it some seahorses came and started nibbling. nibbling at me. And that's gonna be the new thing. So the next time I'm waiting for somebody to ask me, and that's gonna be it.
That's
Talk about a herd of seahorses or something. But yeah, that was it. Nothing, no crazy shark encounters or anything. Just the barracudas are interesting.
Nice.
So you have traveled a lot of places. What if you could name 5? What some other places you would like to visit that you haven't visited yet?
South Africa is on the list. Galapagos is on the list.
Mm.
Those are the big two. I think once I have those two done, I've checked off everything on my bucket list.
Wow.
I still would like to get back to Antarctica if the opportunity ever presents itself, just to say that I did it. But I checked Alaska off a long time ago. London, Paris, Barcelona, Amsterdam, Dubai, Japan. Like, it's some of it again work, some of it for fun. Live hard, play harder, right? But yeah, the two that are left that I definitely want to get done: great white sharks in South Africa and Galapagos. Before the talks about wanting to explore for oil there, and before we as human beings mess it up, I definitely want to get up there and see it.
Nice.
What are some of your favorite animals? No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I was told that in addition to Morocco and Egypt, I have to see Black Africa also. So like Ghana, Kenya, that from Western Africa, Eastern Africa,
Nigeria,
somewhere in that would be dope. Yeah,
that would definitely be dope. I was gonna ask you, what are some of your favorite animals in the ocean?
Ocean sea turtles for sure. In terms of, there's I don't know. I guess everyone that has ever worked with sea turtles end up with this weird connection with them that stays with you for the rest of your life. But the fact that as different species as these marine reptiles have been around, the leatherbacks and whatnot, like related to those that existed in the age of the dinosaurs. And that's how many organisms, a number of sharks, you can say the same thing, have evolved from those lines and whatnot. But there's something to be said about just that. Dolphins are pretty dope because of how smart they are. Octopus also. I posted a video a while back of we'd apply these corals on the reef using a 2-part epoxy. So you had part A and part B that looked like clay, but you mix them, and within an hour it was hard like cement. And we had this octopus pick up one of the coral pieces that we tried to outplant and was trying to crawl off with it. So I had the whole thing on video. You can hear me laughing on the water at this octopus, but like my employee was trying to pull the coral away, got the coral free, but the octopus still had the epoxy. You had to take that back from the octopus and put it back down. And they actually use shells and whatnot that they find on the reef to decorate the outside of their den. I don't know if it's if males trying to attract females or what the case is, or if she's trying to present that she does have a nice home, whatever the case may be. But octopus are pretty cool. Seahorses, I was able to see pygmy seahorses in Solomon Islands. They're the size of your pinky fingernail.
Wow.
And they were able to show us everything. Mandarin fish are very elusive. They only surface for like 15 minutes at dusk every day. And again, the dive masters let us there, and they were like, all right, just wait here for 5 minutes, and they came out, they did their things. Usually the male and female will connect and mate. Sometimes males will fight each other underwater to try to do their thing. But yeah, there's tons of organisms, animals underwater that are pretty dope. Those are just like, I don't know if I could call it the top 5 or 6, but those are some of the cool ones to me.
Thanks.
Of all the places you travel, what was the most man-made, breathtaking that you have, something you have seen that was man-made, that was most breathtaking, and also nature, just from nature, what was most breathtaking?
Man-made would be Dubai for sure. Because I keep, I've said it on our podcast a number of times when we talk about lime tree and events and whatnot. It's like, with all the money that this industry brings in, Sincori should look like Dubai, and I legit mean that. Because it's the same thing, that's how Dubai is built the way that it is, off of oil money. We just, again, don't have the leaders in place to, like, we shouldn't have issues with, anyway, that wasn't a question, but we need to do better. But yeah, Dubai, in terms of man-made for sure, Dubai. In close second to Egypt in terms of man-made. Just amazing. Like, there's no way to explain like how and there's some of the temples will go through, like how they would build up mud and build these temples or these walls, and then flush the water out, and the temple remain, and that's how some of the layers were created. And so there's a level of explanation out there, but yeah, in terms of man-made, Egypt for sure. Dubai's a close second in terms of contemporary man-made. Natural, underwater or on land?
Both.
We got both, yeah.
Underwater, I'd have to tie Solomon Islands and Great Barrier Reef in Australia as like just beautiful natural seascape underwater. I mean, in Australia and the Great Barrier Reef, we had the bumphead parrotfish. They're not in the Caribbean or Atlantic, but they're these like, bigger than me parrotfish, and you can just hear them chomping on the reef. They're pretty amazing. And then in the Caribbean, I would have to tie Bahamas, because they're like low-lying, mostly calcium carbonate, or mostly old coral reef that is now land. So there's not a lot of soil, there's not a lot of runoff, and so visibility in the Bahamas on a normal day is like clear as day. And because of where it's at in the tongue of the ocean, where you have the current, the jet stream coming up on the one side, and you have all kinds of things happening on the other side. We, after Hurricanes Irma, Maria, one of our coral structures that we grew corals on, the anchor failed, and the tree actually ended up in the Bahamas. Corals were still alive, and we got a call, "Hey Kemet, I think we found some of your trees." The other just beautiful place I'll have to give to Cuba, because of the culture, the people, the food. And we were in Old Havana, and the people like dancing the rumba in parks, and live music playing here, and the underwater seascape was amazing also, because it's so untouched and not destroyed by industry and whatnot. So Caribbean side, Cuba would be my top. Bahamas would be next. The rest of the world, definitely Australia and Solomon Islands.
Nice.
I got 4 more questions for you. If you had to choose an actor to play your life story in a movie, who would it be?
I don't think Emmanuel Lewis is acting anymore. Interesting enough, people used to call me Webster when I was younger, but no, I'd have to think about that one. Unfortunately, Chadwick isn't here anymore, so he would probably be the person I'd think of first, just because of how he, like every role that he's ever gotten, it's been, knocked out the park.
That's true. That's true.
But I'd like to think of myself as an actor also, and I wouldn't mind
playing yourself
on the big screen.
I like that. I feel the same way too.
Yeah, that might be cool. Interesting next step, but we'll see.
5 words that describe you.
Driven for sure. Humble. Like there's a lot that I give thanks for. So definitely humble. I've been called Renaissance man a number of times because I do a lot of, like Karen said, there's the photography, there's the marine science, there's the, taught dance part-time. I taught UVI part-time, tennis, now pickleball, acting. I did some work with Caribbean Community Theater back in St. Croix. Nice. I like to think that I'm decent at most things, not an expert at all, but such is life. What was that? Driven, humble, Renaissance.
That's 3.
Consistent.
Thoughtful. I've especially with podcasts, I found that I try to be as diplomatic and as politically correct as I can be. Yes. And I think a lot of people don't, we had the conversation last night also on the other topic that we talked about, where people often are quick to comment publicly and don't realize, even with some of the little things, how damaging that can be in it being received as you bullying a person or not knowing what you're saying. And that happens a lot on Facebook. A lot of people talk about stuff that they just don't know about, and that's the most infuriating thing to me. But I found that, especially now, I'm a lot more thoughtful about everything that comes out of my mouth. And if you might have noticed that tonight, I spent quite a bit of time pausing and collecting my thoughts before just speaking. And I have to save cushion for word number 5 because,
Nice. That's dope.
It's me.
So interjecting really quickly before we get to the next question, tell us about this podcast and how we can hear it.
Oh, Polytalks. Polytalks is the brainchild of Frank Robinson and Summer Sibley Brown. It's on WTJX on Facebook every Tuesday from 6:30 to 8:30. And we talk about, issues around St. Croix. Every week we've had Congresswoman Plaskett on talking about the, right after the election, talking about the new constitutional convention and what that means. Last evening show, we had Kemit-Amon Lewis on and Tariq McMillan talking about child abuse and sexual abuse, domestic abuse, in light of this month being awareness for all of the above. And that was a deep conversation that many of us were intimidated in, like even jumping into, but the host, the guests and the host were so prepared. Well, the host prepared well for the show, but the guests were just like amazing. So, Clement had been doing this work with Women's Coalition for 40 years. So, I mean, it's that she lives, eats, breathes, sleeps advocacy around victims and justice and all that good stuff. But yeah, every Tuesday, WTJX. I think next week we're planning on talking to Wayne Biggs from EDA about the new plan that was rolled out for, economic development for the VI. Sometimes we have just fun conversations, joking about Summer and her Gucci Link Johnny cakes. She learned how to make them in Thomas. And, they've done. It started at best, and it was just a casual conversation, but it's, a lot of where I try to bring my focus is, okay, we know what the issues are, but where can we make progress? And so that's why last night, a lot of we as a community blame or use the word culture for an excuse for so many things. Like one of the experience we talked about last night is, parents that feel like their child must hug every adult that they see in public. And, that might have been a good thing culturally back then, but now in 2021, when, the majority of people that are abusers are relatives or people that, the victims don't, like, maybe that's something that we can let go of and, just say hail up or good to see you.
Right.
So, anyway.
Right.
Yeah, Tuesday is 6:30 to 8:30 on WTJX Facebook link. That's us. Just casual conversation.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Back to your questions now, Mumbo.
5 dinner guests, dead or alive.
5 dinner guests. That's a tough one. We'll say that the two of you guys are hosting the dinner because I'm on your podcast and I've thrown enough shade at Karen tonight. So I still have 5 in addition to the hosts and the hostess.
Like that.
Pity invite. It's okay.
Charisma. Yeah, definitely inviting Charisma Eileen. She's a Tutine from the East End. I don't hold it against her. But she's I mean, when you talk about friends, that's like, she's good people and been there through like the darkest of the darks. Frank Robinson, definitely invited him because, he has to bring the drinks. Who else? I think Chadwick for sure. Boseman, like I mentioned him. Like, there are a lot of actors and actresses out there, or I guess politically correct, just the actors out there, that there's just so much extra going on, and like the more you learn about him and how just genuine he was as a person, was pretty dope. And so I have a lot of respect for him. There's a couple of the kings that I would like to meet. Like maybe if Ramses was one of them at the dinner table, that would be pretty cool also. And probably Obama, because like he's just cool. has helped too. I think that'll make a good group.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got
And summer would be number 5. That's probably not 6 or 7, but
my final question for you. How has traveling the world shaped you as a person?
It's been big. I think more people from home need to explore more. And, a lot of my perspective on a lot of things that I hear or see at home now, I often think about a lot of things that I've seen or heard abroad. And I often say to myself, if you only knew, like there was a conversation a while back on how crime in the Virgin Islands is connected to poverty. Granted, there's an issue. There's a systemic issue that we live every day as a colony of a superpower, and as a territory that has always been a colony of another superpower. There are just systemic issues that will always exist until we figure out how to change and to advance, like so many other islands in the Caribbean have done before, and some with really good success. Bahamas, to some extent, Barbados for sure. But there's a difference between the quote-unquote poverty in that I will sit on the corner and not do anything, and everything's going to be handed to me, and if I want your chain, I'm going to steal your chain, and this is my life. And I don't look at that as poverty, and I don't look at that as the reason why gun violence occurs in St. Croix. If you walk through some of the markets in Morocco, you see what poverty looks like. When you see individuals, I don't like to use beg, but asking for money so that they can, or food so that they can feed themselves or their family, that's a completely different ball game to what exists in the VI. And I'm not saying, again, that we don't need to fix a lot of the inequities that exist at home, but when you look at other places, it's hard to have those notions that are the notions that keep us back as a community. And if people would, I think, step out and explore a little bit more, they may look at things a little bit differently home. I was
Carry on, stop it.
I'll share soon. I was the work that we did in Haiti. Again, when you start to talk about inequities and people that haves and don't have, they're fishermen in the mangrove lagoons catching barracuda that won't even fit across the plate. These small barracudas, and that's what they were excited to catch because they could feed their family with something. And then you go back to St. Croix, and people are complaining that they want conch when it's out of season. There's a reason for the season. You allow the conch to mate, spawn, do their thing, and then you can go back to harvesting them for half of the year. It makes sense. It's logic. It's science. It works. Again, this is like what I was talking about. These things that we disguise as culture, or that we use the excuse of culture. if you're excited about eating conch and that's a cultural thing for you, then you should be excited about your grandchildren eating conch. And if that means that you enjoy it for 6 months and celebrate another seafood choice for the other half of the year, by all means. You have lobster, you have all kinds of fish. I mean, you have endless opportunities. Well, not endless, but you have a number of opportunities out there. And it's like, you know, being in Haiti and then because all of the work that we did was in the water there. We rarely spent time on land. Just seeing the resources there, like amazing coral reefs, but then not one big fish in sight. You know, I think a lot of people would benefit from exploring and coming home with a reality check on what's real, what's out there. So yeah, definitely, hands down, has played a very big part in who I am today. Is all the things I've seen in the different places that I've been.
Nice,
man. That's awesome. So before we wrap this up, you want to give any shout outs? You know, any family members, anyone?
Shout out to the St. Patrick's School class of '96, yes. Caribs class of 2000, Savannah State 04 and 06, and just everybody, like big hugs, big love to everybody on St. Croix that have been, like, you know, pushing, inspiring, following, like sending love, sending, you know, whatever positive energies my way, especially when I needed it. But even now, as I, you know, I'm back on my own 2 feet and doing again, I still welcome all the positive energy and love from home and from abroad. And so, you know, thanks to both of y'all for inviting me on and allowing me to share. I'll think about the embarrassing pictures of Karen and whether or not I want to share them, because I'm in it and I'm embarrassed about it too.
There we go.
So, you know,
oh, share them now then, so we all could be embarrassed.
Nah, I'm good. Because Michelle is there and she's an innocent bystander. So
we could blur her face.
But yeah, just you know, shout out to you guys for what you do and invited me on to share and to have this cool conversation. I didn't realize it would have been, you know, 2 hours and 45 minutes or so. Totally. Like you said, you know, it's cool. I mean, yeah, life is good.
It's good to hear, man.
And I mean, that's it. Life is good.
Nice. Thank you very much for coming on. I have enjoyed this more than I thought I would, because, you know, I get to see you, not in person, but, you know, visually. And I miss you so much. I miss our times spent at home at Christmas, hanging out at the village, and just, you know, being together, doing fun things and exploring home. So I will try to make it down where you are to visit as soon as possible, and be well until I see you again.
This is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome, man. Kemit, thank you for coming out, man, and sharing your story, man. Definitely appreciate it. I learned so much. It's amazing. You know, definitely want to shout out all the viewers that tune in, that ask questions, that supported Kemit and his episode. Definitely thank you guys. We have John St. Louis coming on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, we have John St. Louis coming on Sunday. So Sunday, I think 7 p.m. we'll be back on. But definitely appreciate you, Karen, as well too. Sheldon, Karen, making this happen. Definitely appreciate you guys.
No problem.
So Kemit, you gotta take us out.
Just again, thank you, man. Thank you for the opportunity to join you guys. To everybody listening, I mean, a question that that's sometimes I'm asked while I'm out in public and whatnot is, you know, people see me with either the reusable cups or reusable cutlery and stuff. Is like, you know, what you can do to help Earth, and just, you know, as Virgin Islanders, as people who love the ocean, just start to think about, you know, what you do in your everyday life and how it impacts, you know, impacts the ocean, like the plastics, the sunscreen, like as was mentioned before. I know a lot of us brown and black people don't mess with the sunscreen, but there's some of us that do. Let's think about, you know, how, you know, what you eat, where you eat, and how you consume like single-use things impact us, because I think the biggest take-home message is that, you know, the Virgin Islands, St. Croix, without a healthy Caribbean Sea is completely changes everybody's way of life, and it's not something that we want to see. So, you know, we can all do little things to keep Earth and keep the Caribbean Sea happy around St. Croix. So.
Awesome. Well said. All right, folks. Well, everybody enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. Have a good Thursday and Friday and the rest of the week. We will see y'all on Sunday.